Hello and welcome to this edition of The Rest is Entertainment, question and answers edition. I am Marina Hyde.
And I am Richard Osman. Hi, Marina.
Hello, Richard. How are you?
Yeah, I'm really, really well. Before we start, Reeve Hamilton has been in touch. Good name for the next Bond.
Yeah.
And Reeve said, I talked about Hasty Dixie's version of Gin and Juice, the Snoop song. And actually, he's absolutely right. It was the Gourds who did the first bluegrass version of Gin and Juice. And I just say that because it's so brilliant. So thank you, Reeve, for putting us straight there.
Are you going to tell us, as billed on Tuesday, how bands make money?
The touring thing,
yeah.
Yes, with regards to Oasis, we will definitely do that. We're not going to start with it,
okay,
but we will definitely get on to the things that are put in place to make sure that they don't split up halfway through the tour. Can we start, though, with the series The Acolyte, the Star Wars series? David Waterman has a question. David says, my 9-year-old daughter recently had a small role in Star Wars The Acolyte on Disney+, and I would like to ask, what do you think happened with that show? It seems like there's a lot to unpack with it from the moment it was released to a few days ago when it was shut down. It would be very interesting to hear your thoughts on the whole saga.
Well, congratulations to your daughter. I would say what happened, what didn't happen.
I haven't seen it.
Okay, if you don't know what this is, it's a sort of mystery thriller. It's set about a century before the Phantom Menace.
So yeah, it's like a Star Wars pre-story.
It has been review bombed, which is something we could actually one time do a whole breakout thing on, but it was review bombed. So the critics were sort of okay with it, but it's got something like an 18, I mean, it's in the teens audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. And the showrunner said, I want to have a non-binary actor. Amanda Stenberg, who is lead, said she just had to put up with a rampage of vitriol, as she put it. So it's basically the fandom's turned on it.
They should have called it Rampage of Vitriol.
Yeah, I mean, that would be quite good, wouldn't it? That's quite a classic Star Wars title. But first of all, I'd say two things about this. First of all, this happens a lot within the Star Wars things, is that they've got a fandom that I think is quite toxic in lots of ways. If you look at what happened with The Last Jedi, which I thought was quite good, they absolutely went for Kelly Marie Tran. And the next movie, The Rise of Skywalker, like an utter failure, apparently written by a committee. It was absolutely awful, described by Rishi Sunak as a good night. Just want to put that out there. Anyway, that's the sidebar.
His career as a movie reviewer has not taken off.
Well, there's plenty of time.
He's got time, hasn't he?
He's about to get a lot of time in his in tray. I have to say that also it was very, very expensive, this show. The Acolyte cost $22 million or something an episode. Bob Iger has said, who's the CEO of Disney, we're going to spend less money on, be more selective with all this stuff they make, because they spend huge amounts of money and they've only got 150 million subscribers. They need more to be able to be spending 22 million on things like that.
How much do you reckon David Waterman's daughter got?
I hope she got a whole million per episode, but I fear that she might not have.
She might not have done.
But the thing is, Star Wars is a brand that is in decline. Let's be honest. I mean, we've got something coming up which is called Skeleton Crew, like a four young kind of people within the Star Wars universe. Does that sound like a show you've seen on TV before? So, you now feel like the Stranger Thingsification of the Star Wars universe. They're following other things rather than leading their culture.
What about in later life, Han, Leia, Luke, they're all in their 70s, early 80s. They live together in a retirement village and solve murders.
Oh, my God. Why do you give all your best ideas out on air?
The Jedi Murder Club.
I love it so much.
Yeah,
and I would watch. There are a number of reasons, but as we've seen, people can be brought back from any form of dead. So anything can be what you want it to be. They are going to need to take some sort of detours, but they're going to stop, I think, spending huge money on these series that don't really make people sign up for Disney+. Sometimes you get something that people think, this is so important, I want to know. That's all they want. They want you to subscribe. By the end of the first week of, I think, The Acolyte, Frozen had been watched more.
Yeah.
So they've got these great library properties, which are brilliant. And obviously Frozen was a massive film. But unless it's a real banker and it's just going to keep delivering for you, why are you going to do this? So I think there were lots of things, but clearly the fandom and the attack on it didn't help.
And it's interesting, like we spoke about Apple movies the other day, it is that thing of they're spending an awful lot of money and the return is sort of not coming. So they have to spend less money on these things.
Winter's coming.
But I look forward to seeing David's daughter in other things.
Yes,
because
absolutely.
This needn't be the end.
Yeah. And it won't be.
Yeah, this could just be a footnote.
Oh, this is a must for you, Richard. It concerns Total Wipeout.
Ah,
yes.
Okay. Listen,
Matt
clear the decks.
Clear the decks.
Matt, Durham or Matt Durham?
He doesn't say, but what he does say is that he's recently discovered a channel which only shows episode of Total Wipeout. Richard, as you worked on Total Wipeout, what was the reason for filming in Argentina?
Total Wipeout. That was a lot of fun, making Total Wipeout. I always say you never know if you're going to have a hit, but you always know if you've had fun.
Yeah.
And that was one of those lovely ones where we had a lot of fun. And then it was a big hit as well.
It would be so sad if you'd said, no, it's absolutely awful to record, because it's such a funny show in so many ways.
And mainly so it was filmed out in Argentina, just outside Buenos Aires. And mostly they would go out and we would just sit and write the commentary. I used to write the commentary with the Dawson brothers. There's 3 of them and only 2 of them are brothers. But we would sit and give everybody nicknames and write the commentary for Richard Hammond. Then we'd film in front of a green screen. Anyways, it was a huge amount of fun. We laughed an awful lot, which I hope came across when you watch it. And if people haven't watched it, it's an enormous obstacle course, essentially, with mad things happening and stuff.
In which the most iconic obstacle are the big red balls.
The giant red balls, yeah, exactly, which is easy to fall off. But when we did the celebrity one, we actually got to go out there. So we spent some time in Buenos Aires, which is great. I love
Buenos Aires. It's amazing.
Yes, it is amazing. It is amazing. And so, I just remember sitting on some kind of deck chair on a huge camera platform, just watching the Red Bulls as people went across it. Why did we do it in Argentina is a very good question. Now, the urban myth was always that because they didn't have health and safety laws in Argentina. Newsflash, they do have those, and even if they didn't, we would still be bound by British health and safety laws because we're a British company. And the reason we did it in Argentina, one of the joys of Total Wipeout is the size of that set and how extraordinary it is. And essentially, it had been a hit in the States, Total Wipeout, where it was just called Wipeout because we had a Paul Daniels quiz called Wipeout over here, so ours was called Total Wipeout. It was a big hit, so all the other endemol companies, of which we were the UK arm, wanted to do their own version. Probably we could have just about afforded to do it in the UK, but certainly most other territories couldn't have afforded to build that set. So the decision was made centrally to build one set. We built it in Argentina because we had a big company out there. We had a big infrastructure out there. So we built it out in Argentina, and all the countries in the world would come and book in, like a timeshare, would book in their 2 weeks to film their series of Total Wipeout. So you do it, and as you were packing up, the Belgians would be coming in, and then the South Africans would be coming in. So it was that, essentially. It was just so you only had to build one set. So it became...
Also, can you imagine doing it like Milton Keynes or something, which is just raining the whole time, and you just... No.
Yeah, it would be less fun, yes.
You need... Everyone's going to get wet, obviously. I'm aware of the format.
Yeah, for sure.
But just doing it in the driving rain would have been slightly too British, perhaps.
Would have been less good. And it's that economic thing of people saying, but you've got to fly everyone out there. And, the economics of TV are such that the cost of flying 50 people somewhere is so much less than the cost of building an enormous set. Yeah. And so actually it made an awful lot of sense. And these were in the days before we worried too much about carbon offsetting. So we didn't really think about the idea of flying thousands of Europeans out to Argentina. We just thought, because that's the cheapest way to make the TV show. Yeah. I have to say that even though we didn't go there for health and safety reasons, sometimes it was laxer than it might have been. One day we turned up and every single bit of camera equipment had been stolen. Every single bit. We turned up about 8 a.m. And the Argentina, the fixer who was our sort of middle person out there said, everything's been stolen, so we can't. We go, okay. We need to hire some more stuff. We're sort of insured. He goes, I'm not sure we are insured. I'm like, okay, that's interesting. But is there somewhere else we can hire? Which one of the reasons you go to Buenos Aires is it's a thriving economy and there's lots of post-production and stuff. He goes, we can do that. And we go, so listen, we cancel for today. Can we get everything for tomorrow? He said, no, we can get it all within an hour or so. Then within an hour, all of this equipment turned up. And it was apparent it was all the original equipment. Yeah. That's interesting. This was just around the corner and it's sort of in the same boxes that the original equipment was in. Anyway, so stuff like that would happen on that show. But then on the other hand, they'd be digging a big pit. It'd be like 8 a.m. and there'd be members of the crew digging a pit. You go, why are they digging a pit? And they go, because we're having a barbecue after. And they would literally just lay planks across this pit and get like a whole cow. Yeah. And they would just, the whole day, they were cooking this thing. And at the end of the day, you're like, oh my God, all day you can smell barbecue. And at the end of the day, you'd have a lovely barbecue and lovely red wine. So it was a lovely place to film. We filmed it there purely for financial reasons, that you build one incredible set with a great crew and everyone can go film there. But it's kind of fun that people think it was because there's no health and safety in Argentina. Thank you, Matt from Durham. I have a question for you, Marina, from Fred King. How does CBeebies get such an array of celebrities to read bedtime stories? It can't be money, can it? And do the celebrities get to pick the book?
They do get to pick the book. It's been going since 2016, CBeebies Bedtime Stories. But that whole bedtime hour is so... sorry, I'm just going to do a little breakout on the bedtime hour, which is absolutely amazing. And when I had 3 children under 3.5, you got everybody bath or whatever, that bedtime hour was such a godsend. And you sat there and you watched these absolutely beautiful shows like, I don't know, Abney and Teal or The Night Garden or whatever they were. And you thought like, I am parenting, but really the third parent, the television, is doing all of this. And this is really nice. And it's so magical. And it means such a lot to parents. Anyhow, they originally intended this as a sort of a version of Jack and Ori, but Mr. Tumble, the legendary Justin Fletcher, who is incredible, has done the most episodes of it.
I was in a lift in Holiday in Manchester with him the other day.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, now you've got my attention.
Yeah, we had a little chat, little showbiz chat. He was a charm. I can say his manager was there.
Meet your heroes. Yeah. Meet your heroes in the case of Mr. Tumble. Thank you. Hey Bembo, who is the CBeebies controller, said how it originally started, how Tom Hardy got onto it.
Oh, yes. So Tom Hardy was one of the big names. There's been some big names.
There have been some really big names. Reese Witherspoon's done it. Kate Winslet's done it. Harry Styles has done it. Dolly Parton's. Yeah.
Dolly Parton's done it.
Yeah. Well, she, as we know, is all about outreach and books. But Elton John's done it. Dave Grohl's done it.
No.
Even Billie Eilish has done it as part of one of her press tours.
Billie Eilish has done it?
Yeah, it's part of the press tour. What they do, if you're doing some of these promotional things, they make it as part of your day. So you might say, okay, you're going to do a day at the BBC, so you'll do the Radio 1 breakfast show. Then you might do some social media videos for the channel. Then you record bedtime stories, and you can choose the book. And it doesn't normally take that long to record. I mean, I feel I would be one take on quite a lot of books.
Hi, I'm Richard Osman, and this is The Spy Who Came In From the Cold by John le Carré, Chapter 1.
I mean, I would have taken that. You could have just babysat them the whole night that way. So you come in and you do it, but it's become a thing, and so many people want to do it. And it is one of the very magical things that I have to say, I think, one of the myriad things that only the BBC can do. And it's amazing. There's always a flywheel effect. Tom Hardy wanting to do it brought so many others in. So you always get these things where, first of all, someone comes in and then suddenly people say, I want to do it, I want to contribute. And it becomes almost like a stop on the tour. And if you've got kids, to be able to say that you've done it, often they can't see any of your films for obvious reasons.
But they can see you reading a story.
But they can definitely see your bedtime story. So it's very popular. And it's one of those things that only exists on the BBC, and it was a big, big part of my early parenting years.
But they're not getting paid big money. They're doing it for the love.
No, doing it for the love.
If they asked you, which they should, and because you owe them, what book would you do?
I think I'd have to do, when you're reading those children's books and you're all the time thinking, but what is actually happening here? I mean, clearly the one thing that hasn't happened is that a tiger has not come to tea. What is this actually about? What is it? Why is the father allowed to rescue the end of the story and take them out to the cafe and her nightie? All this sort of stuff. I wouldn't do The Tiger Came to Tea, even though I absolutely love it.
I wouldn't, given what you just said.
Oh, I absolutely love it.
Yeah, but you can't go, now it's interesting here, kids. Sorry, just 1 second. That it isn't actually about a tiger. It's actually about the patriarchy.
But you're thinking about it the whole time, and you know the story of, that her family were fleeing the Nazis, and all these sort of stories. So you're always wondering what actually is happening here. I think I would do.
They're not great when you mention the Nazis.
I'm not going to mention the Nazis, but you're thinking.
It sounds like you would.
As a parent, I'm always thinking, because you know the story so well that you can do both.
I'm always thinking about the Nazis.
Okay, well, I would do Goodnight Moon by Margaret Wise Brown, because I have read that book. Probably, people always say, what's your favourite book, what you've read most times? Let's be honest, I've read Goodnight Moon about 1,500 times. I'm no clearer as to what is actually happening. Clearly night is starting. I don't know, but it's very surreal in lots of different ways. And if you read lots of other books by Margaret Wise Brown, oh my God, she was an amazing person. And she wrote lots and lots of children's books. She was American, and her story is fascinating.
She sounds like an owl.
Margaret Wise Brown. Well, she is a white owl, but her story is sort of fascinating, and lots of these people are tragic in parts. And I love the books she wrote for children, and they are odd and in some ways surreal, and then in some cases less so. But I would do Goodnight Moon because I'm always thinking, what is actually really happening here?
Ah.
What would you do?
I'd probably do one of Frank Lampard's Magic Frankie books. No, honestly, if they asked me, I'd be delighted to do it. But I'd spend longer thinking about that than I would thinking about Desert Island Discs. I would literally be.
Oh, it torment me.
But also, they've done a lot of books, haven't they?
They have done. I think you could probably get a niche one.
But I think my friend Nadia Shireen's Barbara Throws a Wobbler, which is a great book. I would do that, but I think I read recently that somebody did it.
Someone like, brilliant, like Carrie Mulligan would have bagged it. Someone would just go in and say, I'm doing the wobbler.
Yeah, Schwarzenegger did it, I think. Yeah. On that bombshell, should we go to a break?
We must. This episode is presented by our friends at Sky, proud partners of The Rest is Entertainment.
Can we talk a little bit about the incredible range of documentaries that Sky show?
Please, I love a good documentary.
There's an incredible one called Klitschko, More Than a Fight, which is about Vitaly Klitschko, former world boxing heavyweight champion, currently mayor of Kyiv.
And that comes out on the 15th of August, and it draws on a whole wealth of archive, personal footage, new interviews to tell both brothers' story.
If you love true crime, there's a new documentary called The Body Next Door, which is out now. A really, really fascinating case, a fascinating crime, and a very well-made documentary. But can I save the best to last? The best for me, anyway, which is a documentary that's currently shooting, will be coming up soon. I have just one word for you: darts. The whole world is obsessed with Luke Littler, this incredible 17-year-old. The world of darts is so extraordinary, amazing characters you don't quite get in any other sport. I
think it's fair to say.
So yeah, it's a drive to survive for darts, and Sky are currently filming that, and I literally cannot wait.
An absolute banker there.
So immerse yourself in the world's most captivating stories with award-winning documentaries from Sky.
Welcome back, everybody. Now, Richard, James Primrose would like to know, in light of Oasis reforming and the big money coming their way for the reunion shows, how does it work in terms of ticket sales? Do they receive the money straight away or after the gigs? Would they still be paid if they had to pull out last minute for an emergency / illness?
For an emergency.
/ bust up.
/ bust up. Yes, it's a question lots of people are asking in relation to the Oasis tour, because no one's entirely convinced they're going to make it through the whole lot. The short answer is, if you sign up to do a big tour, you get some money up front. So you get like a signing on fee from whoever your booking agents are, but it won't be an enormous amount. And the money for the actual gig is paid almost immediately afterwards. So almost on the night, like a comic doing a gig being, handed the money in cash, the money goes straight into the band's account. Not before then, but certainly after then. So the moment that's done. However, you would tend as the band not to get that money, because bands will have a touring company. Yeah. And the money goes into the touring company accounts, and at the end of the whole tour, you start to work out how much you spent on the tour. You work out what your profit is, all that kind of stuff. And at the end of that is when you would get your money. So it gets paid almost immediately, but you don't get it immediately. Although if you're Taylor Swift and you want to take a couple of million out of the touring company at any point, then of course you can do. No one's going to stop you, because there's plenty in there. And with the Oasis tour, that would only be exacerbated by the fact that there might be an opportunity where they might cancel shows, and so you don't know exactly how much money is definitely going to come in, because you do only get the money if you actually play the gig. If you don't play the gig,
are you saying they're not troopers?
Listen, they are troopers, but they're troopers who like to fight each other.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I say. And listen, we can all be troopers, but if we don't like the other troopers, then we're not doing the troopers gig. So they would get a little bit of money up front. The money for every single gig, every time they play one, goes into a touring account, which will then, grow and grow and grow. Yeah. And at the end of the whole process, the money gets paid out. But they're certainly not getting paid all the money for all the gigs straight away. There is also a bonus if you get 95 to 100%. If you fill a venue, yep. There are bonuses that get paid as well. So that money is so that money it becomes important. Certain acts can get a lot more money up front. Taylor Swift can get a lot more money up front. If you're Dave Grohl and everybody loves you and you're and you really are a trooper, you can get a load of money up front. The Oasis ones, they will not be getting as much money up front as other groups, just because of the reputation. But the money will all come in. It'll come in quickly, and it'll get apportioned out. But yeah, they're savvy to it. They're not going to give Oasis all of the money up front. And Oasis, I suspect, know the reason why.
He knows why.
Come on, Noel. You know why, mate. A question for you, Marina. Peter Ormerod. I do like that name. Can you please explain the process behind audio description for television and films? It fascinates me. I'd love to know more about how the scripts are written. I imagine different approaches are adopted for different genres, but it must be hard to write with such clarity and brevity without being utterly banal.
This is really interesting, and it's a audio description. If you don't know and if you've never clicked it on, it's a narration track for blind and visually impaired people, and it tells you what's going on the screen. And obviously you can hear what's going on the screen, it needs to be sort of fitted between the dialogue and the sound effects. So yes,
there'll be a man opens a door.
Yeah. There's a lot of issues which we'll come back to in a minute about whether you name that man or what have you. But it's not just for TV. Obviously, museums do it now, galleries do it now. It actually came out of the theatres. And in fact, although I think the first thing that was ever audio described was Live, which is a film in like 1929 in New York. Bulldog Drummond, which is a sort of series of detective stories, and somebody stood and did the audio description next to the stage. But it came on sort of public TV in the US in the 1980s, and it's now sort of been rolled out. But I spoke to people someone who writes the scripts for this, and also to actors who record them. But so there are certain conventions that you wait to refer to a character by name until that person has been named in the script.
Because because a writer sending someone into the room doesn't want you to know who they are until the moment they tell you who they are.
Sure, right. Yeah. But then some people say, well, there's lots of discussion within the community, people saying, well, hang on, am I just going to say the tall man all the way through, or, the short woman? Because if unless her name is and their identity needs to be revealed and is crucial to the plot, then people feel that there are certain things that you have to say first before it's named in the script, because otherwise it just sounds so clunky.
That's like, you know what? It's exactly that when you write a book. If a character is like serving someone in a restaurant, and you call them a server, you think. And then suddenly their part is much longer, and you still call them the server. And then you think, you know what? I'm going to go back to the beginning and say a server called Adrian.
Yeah.
And then you say says Adrian instead of says the tall server.
Yes, exactly. Now, I mean, I should say that, by the way, this is a funny thing that Pornhub even now do it for some videos. They have audio porn, described videos.
Okay.
This is part of their philanthropic arm, I know, which is I think
their philanthropic arm is that merchandising.
I know it's actually, I genuinely think it's called Pornhub Cares. I sorry, correct me if I'm wrong, Pornhub. Actually, don't get in touch. But anyway, and they actually do college scholarships and things like that. But they do some audio description porn. Anyway, talking to people who write these scripts, it is so hard. You've got such a little bit of sort of interstitial silence, and you don't want to talk over exciting bits and whatever. And if you've got lots of things happening at once, that's what they say is the real nightmare. You're thinking, what do I do first? Bet. So you always use if you listen to them, the language is, it's a real economy of language. They think it's always best to put people first, because the story is always happening to somebody. And even if there's various people, it's affecting them. You have some neutrality. You may not use judgments in these scripts. But things like facial expressions and unspoken cues, they always try and find ways of getting those in, because, look skeptical or whatever it is, because otherwise you can really miss everything from those. So
yes, because so many actors, instead of doing a line, it's all in the eyes, it's all in the expression. So if you don't hear he looks skeptical, you're missing. And
often those unspoken things are part of scripted economy anyway, because you want to be able to get through things quickly. So they have tiny little bits to fit them in. Actors and actresses who read them always say that, they really try and match the tone and style with their voice.
Right, yeah.
And you just have to try and not overwhelm the show. But like a lot of jobs, they are all fearing that it's going to go over to AI. And so people who do this, who are really skilled at writing these things, fear it. I don't know whether that's the case, because there needs to be a great sort of humanity to think how I'm going to describe in very short order the most important things that are happening on these screens. But maybe this is something that's vulnerable to AI, but it's such a valuable thing. And it's as I say, it's being rolled out into all different arenas all the time, and you can get it in galleries and theatres, obviously, and lots of other places. And the people who do it are extremely skilled.
Yes, well, if it's one of those things where when you have it switched on, you're really aware in real time of quite how skilled they are and quite how brilliant they're being. My absolute favourite thing is the BBC gets maybe 10, 20, 30 complaints a day from people who don't realise they've accidentally switched on audio description. And they're going, I was watching Casualty and a voice says, we pan up outside a big hospital, an ambulance pulls up. Yeah, I can see an ambulance has pulled up. I am not an idiot, BBC. And you think, well, you are. But honestly, every single day they get people just saying, why is this man just telling me what's happening on screen when I can see it? and you think you've turned your audio description on, my friend. So, poor BBC.
Ring in. Would you like me to show you how to turn it off?
Yeah, but I think a lot of fun for the complaints people who have to reply to those people and just say, do you know what? That one's on you.
This is a good one on celebrity travel shows. Celebrity travel shows like Travel Man with Joe Lycett. Mm-hmm. Are they really filmed over a weekend? If not, it just seems quite a lot to expect us mere mortals to rush all over a city in 2 days.
Thank you, Lloyd Marshall. They do not do it over a weekend. I asked the man himself, I asked Joe Lycett about this, and he says they do it over 4 days. He says the worst thing is he has to wear the same clothes the whole time because in the edit, because when you're actually filming, there's certain places where you can get to, you go to a museum before it opens, or you go to do a particular activity and, you have to book in at a certain time. But in the edit, you want to make it look like you had a slightly different day. So he has to wear the same clothes for the whole 4 days. They'll film across those days as and when they can in the places that they can, and they edit it together to make it look like a weekend. They're definitely doing all the things. And
they're doable in a weekend, though. Oh, because it's 100%. Just that the filming takes ages.
100%. Filming.
If you can film something in 4 days, you could probably do everything there in one.
Going to a museum for an hour in real life takes you an hour.
Yeah.
Going to a museum for an hour when you're filming takes 7 hours.
Yeah.
Because for lots and lots of boring reasons. And so, they simply couldn't do it over a weekend. But they spend all that time together. They are actually going to those places. And as you say, they are doing an itinerary, which you definitely could do in a weekend and which it would be fun to do in a weekend. But I'm going to notice now that they're always wearing the same clothes because I hadn't spotted that.
Do they not buy them 4 of everything? Surely.
They should, Joe. Come on, man. Did they not buy you 4 of everything?
Yeah.
See, this is why you need Marina as an agent. So
I'm an animal and I will get you 4 of everything.
She is promising you, Joe, 4 of everything. We need to talk at another point about what an amazing career Joe Lycett has had and what a joy he is right in the middle of our culture and the extraordinary things he does and the extraordinary stunts and that big Channel 4 show. I really remember him as a very, very young comic coming up, and all comics when they're coming up, they're funny, but you never know where they're going to go. And I think where he has gone is probably more interesting than anyone else in his generation. And you
never quite know where it will be next, which is his complete. He's a sort of category of one.
Yeah, you really, really don't. The only bad thing I can say about him is the Travel Weekend Con, which apparently they film over 4 days. Yeah, and he says it's in a weekend, so he is a liar.
Yeah.
No, but thank you, Joe, for giving us that information, and thank you for the question. But yeah, I think he is a whole heap of good news.
Yeah.
I think that about wraps it up, doesn't it?
Well, I would like to say that next week, a certain somebody's got a book out, and we are going to talk all about We Solve Murders, what happens to you in a week of publication, Richard, because it's a big day in your calendar.
To be fair to me, we are going to talk, but we're going to talk about publication weeks in general, because it's not just my book that's out next Tuesday. There's also a book by a certain friend of the podcast.
My space queen, Lauren Sanchez, has a children's book, the always fascinating children's book market, Richard. We're going to talk a little bit about her too.
We will indeed.
Do join us.
Yeah, we'll see you next Tuesday.
See you next Tuesday.